Hey, Coach, has got a fantastic guest for you tonight. Chris Hughes is a North Carolina legend among high school coaches. He has really been kind of our link to media. He's run a fantastic website that's helped a lot of coaches. He's gotten into the TV business, and what we're going to talk about today is he is starting a new venture, a new website, podcast that he's super excited about. And if he's excited about it, that means I'm excited about it because he's just really been a guy that's been there for coaches for years now. Probably, Chris, what do you say? Probably 10, 15 years, maybe?
From this side of things, 15, dating back to when I first started coaching, 98 or so, about 23. So, about the past quarter of a century or so, I've been pretty neck deep in high school football.
And he's been kind of the media guy that when the coaches needed to get their information out, he was the guy to always turn to, and was also helpful. He's kind of worked behind the scenes to help people fill jobs, and has been part of that on both sides, kind of administrators and coaches. So, man, excited to have you on here. Excited to hear and talk about your new venture. I know you're excited about it, and we've talked multiple times about the impact. I think you've always helped coaches because you wanted to help coaches help kids. And I think that's where this venture is heading down. So let me start with you. Give us a 1-minute elevator introduction of yourself, and then let's just hear about the project.
Well, and first and foremost, Coach, thanks for letting me get on here. I've thought a lot of you over the years. But yeah, as Coach said, I started coaching around 1998. In the '09, after the '09 season, I transitioned into running CarolinaPreps.com, which was a very kind of a one-stop shop high school site that covered things from history to media to coaches to recruiting, just kind of everything under one roof. And I feel like I've done very good with that. Coach is right. I have done everything from probably a coach's point of view versus maybe a recruiting or, a fan's point of view. Because that's my background. That's what I grew up in. I was a ball boy way back in the who knows when, and that's just what I grew up in with high school football. So that's just a natural progression for me. But I'm excited about this new turn. I'm still going to be involved in everything I've ever been involved in. I'm not getting away from that. Although I very well maybe end up back on the sidelines coaching at some point, not this winter season, but maybe in the fall. But I think this is my way to give back to coaches, but also, like you said, my opportunity to help coaches raise the next generation of leaders.
Well, I know, from the coaches side of it, it was always like you were, and forgive me, but I didn't remember you as when you were still coaching. I think I was kind of late coming to North Carolina, but when I've been here, you were always the media guy who was a former coach.
Yes.
And you did everything with a coach's heart, that it was in your blood, it was in your heart, and you presented things from the coach's side. And I know not only myself, but I think all of North Carolina coaches always appreciated the work you did and your help that you gave. And again, super excited about this project. So, man, just tell us about what you're doing, and just fill us in, because I know you're getting ready to launch it, and we want to be right in the middle of it, buddy.
Well, and just to kind of fill in the gap before I kind of go down that way, I was right on my way out of the coaching side. I was down at Douglasburg with Russell Stone, that 08, 09 time frame. And that was right when they went into the 3A. And I know you knocked the ever living poop out of them that first year they were in the 3A. And that's kind of when I first got to know you and saw the great run you had at South Johnston, and took those guys to the state championship. And, it seems like I just got to know you better and better from there. And just so happy about our relationship just as friends. But yeah, I've started this website called coachesclassroom.com. And we're going to have a podcast, a YouTube page, everything just going to kind of go together. And it really is what it says it is. It's nothing more than an opportunity for me to give coaches a platform to kind of teach their craft and kind of help them cultivate the next crop of leaders. Because you look at their country, and without making this any kind of political thing, because it's not whatsoever, but you see where we're at, and what better way to contribute to the future than to help guide the next group of leaders. So that kind of blends into the mission statement, which I cultivated, which is the mission of this website, Coach's Classroom, is to provide the training, the support, and whatever support necessary to coaches who I think in turn will help create better student athletes who become better citizens, better parents, and ultimately, tomorrow's leaders. And again, coaches have so much influence on kids, even the ones that don't play. I remember being a coach. You got those guys that might have played in the band or might have been the ROTC or whatever, but they still looked up to coaches because they know that you're one that kind of influences that school. So that's kind of how I started this website, and it's an opportunity just to help coaches grow. And the way I want to do it is to provide through podcasts, very similar to what we're doing here, Coach, is to bring on what I consider to be the subject matter experts, the coaches who are just absolutely dynamite in their field. And, I think I've become a pretty good interviewer over the day. You mentioned I've done TV, fortunate that ESPN's hired me and some other people. So I want to kind of sit here at a setting like this and kind of bring out the knowledge from the coaches and really let them push it out there to the other coaches. So, we've got all this knowledge. You might be the best spread guy there ever is. And actually, I think you probably are the best pump block guy I've ever seen. I've never seen anybody's team block punts quite the way your teams have. And you've got all that knowledge built up, but if you don't teach it to the next group of young coaches, what good is it? You're just kind of using it for yourself. And I do want to do things a little bit more from a leadership point of view, because I think that this is so much further than just X's and O's. But I'm not going to forget about the X's and O's. I'm a grass and dirt guy. I'm a split back veer guy. I want to sit here and want to talk about reading the end or something like that. But I just want to give coaches an opportunity to tell their stories, maybe tell their philosophies, tell how they got to in coaching, and just kind of go from there and see what we can do with this.
Well, we've talked several times about, how important the job is, that we truly are the lucky ones because we get to impact kids and how much that is needed. Today is probably more than any time. And the one that I think you gave me the quote and I've quoted you from it is that, if coaches aren't doing the job, who is? If coaches aren't building young men, who's going to build them? That.
And I'll tell you who it is. And you and I both have young kids that are kind of in that same age bracket. Yours might be a little bit older than mine, but we know who's doing it. It's social media, it's the TikTok videos, it's everything that they see that influences them on a daily basis. And if we're not out there being front and center, leading our own kids and leading our players, you and I both know that somebody else is going to do it for us.
And it's scary, what I don't want to sound like I'm 100 now. I could easily trigger into my, what media is teaching kids. Uh, I always say, kids are still awesome. If you coach a little league team or if you go on a church retreat, kids are awesome, but they're just not trained the way they used to be trained,
And
and
Coach,
that's what we've lost.
and I've heard this saying a lot, and people have said it, and I've said it. I'm guilty of it, but I hear people all the time say, kids are different today and age than they were when I grew up. And I don't think that's true. Because, I think back to the 1980s and the 90s when I was coming up. And I think that in a nutshell, I'm the same as these kids today. It's just that they've got access to so many things that we didn't have access. Now, we were doing things that they probably didn't do. We had cars and went out and worked jobs. And I've seen a lot of kids that don't have anything to do with a car, my kids being one of them. So, I think the surroundings and what's around us growing up is different. But I think ultimately, I think the kids are the same. And I think it still comes down, and you've seen this in coaching, I know I have. They really just want to be loved on and guided and put in the right direction. And they might say they don't, but I think all these young men, especially in football, they just want some guidance and some discipline. And, they might not ask you for, but you can tell when you give it to them in the right amounts and the right doses that they respond correctly.
How old are your kids now?
Uh, 10 and 12. And then I've got an older one who's in college now.
Okay, so both of mine are college and grad school, but when I was growing up, how old are you?
45.
Okay, so I'm 53. I'm a little older than you, but I remember growing up, and on a Saturday we would leave the house, 9, 10 o'clock, and we would come home when it got dark.
Yes.
And our parents had no idea where we were during that time. We might come home for lunch, go to someone's house for lunch, and we were gone. But today, that that's unthinkable to do that. That your kids are going to be out of the house and you're not going to know where they are, for that amount of time. So the world has changed. It's they're not trained the same as they used to be, and the world is just a drastically different place. But I always think about that. That we would literally come home when it got dark, and that would there's no possible way you could do that anymore in today's world.
Yeah, I try to be as free as possible in allowing kids the freedom to go out in the neighborhood. And they've got their cell phones, and through the cell phones I can see where they're at. So I don't worry that much. I worry more about what they're doing when their bedroom doors closed on their phones, more so than I do when they're outside playing with their friends. But you're totally right. When we were coming up, I could go out. I remember the days riding bikes and just doing whatever. I could end up 15 miles from home during the summer, and it wasn't that big a deal because your parents knew that you knew how to handle yourself and you knew how to behave, and that you'd be home when it's time to eat.
Well, now all the young coaches that are watching think we're 100. So we probably got to rein them in now. Tell us, give us some details. What you're going to attack this thing from the leadership side? Talk to us a little bit about what your vision is.
Well, it is definitely trying to guide coaches from the leadership side. Again, I am not abandoning X's and O's, but I'm in a little bit of a different position. There's some great coaches out there. I watch them every day, you included. Our dear friend, Coach George Coltharp, people like that who are on the ground level doing X's and O's every day. And they've been practicing this craft of coaching for the past 15, 20 years. I've been out of the coaching side for a while, and it's going to take me a little bit of time to get back up with the X's and O's, but I'll be there. But one thing that I've learned, through the leadership, through everything I've done, is that and I think you told me this comment, and I'm sure it's somebody else may have said it too. But leadership and building a culture and just all the little things. It's kind of like practicing special teams. A lot of coaches don't want to put a lot of time in it, but deep down inside, they realize that that's probably one of the most important pieces and the most important cogs of football coaching out there. And I think that we shouldn't forget about, the true value of leadership, of character building. And, we both know that coaches, or as coaches, that most of your players aren't going to have the opportunity to go on and play ball, whether it's D3 or junior college or D1 or whatever. But most all of them are going to go on to become professionals in some venture in life. And I just want the coaches to give these young people the tools to be rock stars in life, good parents, good leaders, just good whatever. And I'm not even trying to say it's got to be football coaches. We got a lot of wrestling coaches and basketball coaches and track coaches and whatever in there. Everything kind of guides around the core values that I really deep down in my inside came up with is what I think a coach should be. And who knows, maybe I'm going to try to go out and become a head coach and get back into it. And these would be the core values that I would try to impress upon my leadership. But it all starts with the number one value of the student athlete always comes first. It speaks for itself, but us as coaches have to understand that as leaders of children and other people's children, that you always have to put their needs first as a coach. You can't just go out there and win at all costs without thinking of them. I think it always starts with putting the kids first, doing the right thing, leading by example. These coaches or these kids look at us as role models. So just doing everything right in the right phases of life. Respect, I think that speaks for itself. Excellence, as a coach, if you're not trying to be excellent at every phase of what you're doing, you're just not doing a good job as a coach. Accountability, I think, is one of the most important traits of a coach, because not only do we have to be accountable and own our own decisions, but we've got to teach that to the young people we coach, because I think that that's one of the few things that I see that I think a lot of kids of this generation have dropped the ball, because they think that you don't have to be accountable for your actions. You can go out there and do whatever. But I think that that's one of the most important things. Collaboration, and I think we all do a good job of collaboration, but sometimes we don't. I know that we out there standing on opposing sidelines and we're trying to beat each other, but during the off season, I still think we can come together. We do it at clinics. I know, Coach, you ain't afraid to call up somebody and say, "Hey, I noticed when we played each other, you might have ran power a certain way, or you might have read you might have read a safety instead of a linebacker or something." Then learn. I mean, try to create and learn your trade a little bit more, collaborate with coaches, just try to get a little bit smarter. I think we do that good at clinics anyway. Um, and then finally, I think having gratitude, just being thankful to those who help you. And by those that help you, I mean, be thankful to your administration. I think a lot of times coaches, especially football coaches, might have a rub with their administration because they don't feel like they get support. But just be thankful for those, your boosters, your parents that really make your job easy. And then finally is just be innovative. Be agile to go out and learn the changes in your profession. I think that's something you've done over the years. I've seen with your air raid concepts. Be willing to learn something new. Be on the cutting edge of your profession. But in being innovative, it also means not forgetting where you came from. We both know that football's a blocking and a tackling sport, and it's still me moving my man or moving your man from point A to point B and imposing my will on you. So not forgetting where you came from, but being innovative. And really is putting all those core values together that I think makes the perfect coach, but not just in the X's and O's, but just in building the perfect program. And more than anything, because I think it's got to be our number one priority, is building the best citizens we can.
That's awesome, brother. I can tell you put a lot of thought in this, and I'm excited about the vision that you created. I was on your website and I saw, your resume services, and over the last 15 years, you've kind of made connections with administration. You've kind of been on the inside of some of the big jobs that have changed hands here over the last few years. What can talk about that a little bit, the insight you have, and then what you can offer as far as helping with resumes.
I'm really anxious to see how this takes off. I've been doing it pretty much for free for a long time, and I'm not out there. I want to kind of throw the caveat out there that I'm not trying to make a lot of money. I'm not out there trying to stick it to coaches, but I've got a degree in business administration. I've got this background that through the academic side and in HR and learning some of the ins and outs of that. So, I think that I can take what I've learned and really what I've done over the past 10 or 12 years and help coaches, whether it's crafting their resume, helping them come up with a digital package, that they can take into interviews for their PowerPoint presentations or their presentations that they want to send the administrators. Talking to young coaches and giving them the confidence of what to say, what not to say. I'm not trying to tell a coach how to interview, but I think coaching someone into what to expect in an interview, especially some young coach that's never been in there before, I think that's an invaluable tool, and that I think that you teach these guys. And more than anything, I'm not going to sit here and ever tell a coach, you don't need to try to go after a head coaching job, because I think there comes a day where you're never going to be ready, but you're going to have to go out and at least get that interview, because I think interviewing is a art in and of itself, and before you ever get the job. So, I want to teach guys what to expect. But, one thing that's important to me in building good head coaches, and I think you'll know this, is so often I see young guys. And when I say young guys, I mean head coach or young coaches that might be 23, 24, 25 years old, who they might have the most X and O knowledge you've seen come in. They've really studied the game. Maybe they did a great job in college as a GA, or they played, or, they had a great upbringing from coaches through their football lives, and they know a lot. But I think you get a lot of younger guys, like I said, in those early to mid 20s, who, while they are incredible X and O guys, they don't know about the laundry and doing the field painting and, dealing with eligibility and parents. And, I want through these classes that we're going to offer, I want to bring guys in, we're going to do some classes on field maintenance. We'll do some classes on making sure that you've got your program and ducks in a row, because those are things, and I'm sure you've probably been there to where you thought you knew everything about being a head coach, and next thing you know, you got the job, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize I got to do that. And, I want to try to prepare these men for this.
I think that's the classic, is that you bust your tail and you interview and you prepare your package and you're all about it, and then you get the job and it's like, oh my god,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
got the job. So and I always remember my first job. I went from being a GA in college to being a high school head coach, and I remember the hardest question I ever had to answer was, where do we get the laundry detergent from? It's those little details that you don't experience.
That stuff will hit a young coach right in the mouth, and he won't even realize it. And those are things that you've got to figure out as a coach. And I'm not here. I don't have all the answers. Through these packages, I'm not necessarily telling them what to talk about in an interview, or giving them the answers. But I want to make sure that there are things that are on their mind, because I've been involved. I've been on the board for some interviews. I've helped guide some principals and superintendents to who they wanted to pick. And you might think as a coach, and I might think as a coach what they want, but you know yourself, you've been there. You get guys on them interview panels who might be from the community, who might be a science teacher, and they're going to ask some off the wall questions, and they might want to know what your idea for picking uniforms is going to be. Or I've had people in the interview panel say, well, what kind of grass seed do you want to use? And I think you need to have some sort of at least a conversational knowledge of some of this stuff before you get in there and you don't have a clue what they might answer or ask you.
Yeah, no, there's especially on the when you get the big panels and everyone's asking two or three questions,
I
you
don't like that,
get,
by the way.
huh?
I don't like that, by the way. I want the interview to be with the decision maker. If at all possible, I want to be in that one-on-one with that AD and that principal, because I've learned, and I'm not trying to knock schools' processes, but you start getting a lot of people on that board, and that's a lot of people in that room that ultimately aren't going to have a lot of say-so in that job, and they shouldn't be dictating or putting their influence to that principal as who they should pick, when ultimately it's that principal who's got to be the one to own that decision.
Well, I'm finishing my master's in administration, so I understand why they put all those people on the board sometimes. But that's usually when you get the off the wall questions, is and especially the weird scenario questions, like the hypotheticals. It's like, oh my god, where did this guy come up with this question? But he's excited about asking every candidate that one hypothetical question.
Yeah.
Uh, so, and again, I just want to, you just said it, but I mean, you have been a resource in the state. Principals, the superintendents have contacted you, and you've been on the inside of this, so you know what they're looking for, and you know what makes a great resume and makes a great presentation. So obviously a fantastic resource. That's going to be one of the things that's available on the website. Anything we haven't touched on? Anything else you want to kind of highlight?
I don't think so. I think we've hit on all the high points, and I think this website and this concept is going to grow over time. So I've got an outline, I've got a business plan. I think of how it's going to go, but you never know. After a month or 2 months or a year of getting so many different coaches involved, I think it could change it, because I just think you got to be agile with the times, and the need might change, so we might have to adapt to what coaches need. And I'll be very open to what their comments are and what the suggestions, and to find out if I can kind of tailor this to more fit what I think coaches need. But again, I've been involved in football since about 98 or so. So, I think I got a pretty good idea, but you never know. I mean, if we need to kind of change course a little bit, we will.
No, it sounds like a great idea. Now talk about the platform. The website is called.
The website is called coachesclassroom.com. So go over there and check it out. We've already got the podcasting software, the site already up. We've got everything where it's going straight to YouTube. So all that's kicking off this week. Of course, I've got a pretty wide following on social media, on Twitter and stuff. So follow me on Twitter at Chris Hughes NC, and I'll be pushing this info out over the next week. to make sure that you guys kind of understand what's coming down. Yeah, check us out at coachesclassroom.com. We've got a Twitter account. I think it's Class 4 Coaches or something like that. We've got a lot of stuff that we're about to debut, but I think that there'll be a lot of different mechanisms and platforms out there for people to follow us from a variety of angles. Now, I might need to get a little smarter on the Instagram and stuff. I know the young people with that, but I think for the most part, Twitter will probably do a good job of hitting the coaches.
Yeah, Twitter's a great way to reach the coaches, but you gotta get your TikTok game going now.
Oh man, you know what? If I had my daughter do it, we would be winning that. Man, I just don't know.
I had to get my daughter to teach me all of this stuff. So it's gonna the actual presentations or a lot of the stuff is gonna come out on the podcast, on the YouTube platform, and then the website's gonna kind of be the mothership.
It is.
Where
Everything will stream through the website. The YouTube will have a link on the website. You can actually listen live to the podcast through the website. So if you can get to coachesclassroom.com, you'll see the different links to access it. I think I'm using the same software that you use for the podcast. So I think it's going to source itself. I think it's eventually going to find its way to iTunes and Apple and all those different sources out there. So once I kind of get that nut cracked and figure that out, then we'll really be rolling. But I think if you go to the website, you'll get all the streams right there.
Buddy, I'm excited. I think it's a great idea, and I think you're gonna help a lot of people with it. And I can't wait to see you jump. I guess this will go out next Tuesday, and you're gonna kind of kick things off next week.
Yeah, I'm kind of with the release of this podcast here, Coach. I'm going to kind of release everything the same day, so everybody kind of finds out about it at the same time. I think I've got my first coach already lined up, and if everything works out, it's going to be the head football coach from Barrow, Alaska. So talking about really getting out there and projecting ourselves out in the nationwide, because this is definitely going to be a national thing, or at least that's the goal. Not trying to just be a North Carolina-based site. And I'm not going to bother North Carolina coaches to come on right now either, because obviously we've got a spring football season to coach. So I'm going to bring in a lot of those coaches from outside the state who's already played their season while you guys hit the ground and get to work.
And I think most of the states have already played. I think 17 states haven't played yet. So
yeah. So we'll kind of figure that out and what coaches come on. I've already had just in the very coaches I've pushed this to kind of check the viability and the reception of it. It's all been extremely positive, and I've had guys already ask if they can come on and be a presenter. So I look forward to seeing just how we do once we get this thing rolling and just kind of make it happen.
Well, it sounds fantastic, man. I can't wait to see it, and I know you're going to do great, and especially with your contacts and your you kind of already got a network out there. So I really think it's going to be successful, and I'm super excited for you, buddy.
Well, Coach, I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity to get on here with you. Maybe one day we can get on here and talk some ball as well. I've watched you as a coach for years and years and years. I've seen that magical run you had at South Johnston, and I thought you got robbed. I thought you should have won the state championship that night when you played South Point. But incredible season. And really just what you built at the different stops along the way. I just have the utmost respect for you and just appreciate you allowing me to come on.
Well, I appreciate you doing it, buddy, and I look forward to seeing your launch next week.
Thanks, Coach. I appreciate you.
Thank you, man.